So 2023 is coming to an end, and because Nicolas Cage is one of my favorite actors, and since he was in so many movies this year, I'm gonna rank all three of the 2023 Nicolas Cage movies that I watched. And coming in the last place is The Retirement Plan. And the fact that this movie is at least still pretty decent and pretty fun just shows how entertaining Nicolas Cage is, because this movie is kind of just your standard run-of-the-mill action movie where it's just a girl who has to kind of get help from her dad because the mob is after them, and their dad's like also just like secretly he's like retired. He's also just like he was like this former like FBI kind of guy, and you get a lot of fun action and comedy, and still there's kind of a nice sweet little connection, like a mother reconnecting or a daughter reconnecting with her father in there, and all, of course, with the absurdity of over-the-top Nicolas Cage performances. And that's what I just think that makes him such a great actor, is he could be in the most random, stupid movie, just kind of like generic movie that you've ever heard of, and still gives it his all and somehow makes this movie actually pretty decent, when this movie is way better than it had any right to be. And also, Ron Perlman gave a great performance as well. And this movie was a big surprise to me, and I didn't expect to like it as much as I will, even though it still is at number 3. But it's still a really fun movie, and I mean, it's still, I would say, worth the watch. And coming in second place, we have Renfield. And this is another movie this is probably like way higher than The Retirement Plan, even though I really did like The Retirement Plan quite a lot. But this movie is just like, it is so absurd and over the top that it is just awesome. It is hyper violent. It is very funny. But although Nicolas Cage is not the main character in this, it is very much based on like following Nicholas Holt's Renfield. I mean, it is called Renfield after all. And I'd probably say this is an hour and a half movie. I'd probably say Nicolas Cage is only on screen maybe 30 minutes of the actual movie. But those 20 to 30 minutes, he definitely does not like phone it in. He still goes so over the top and gives such an over the top Dracula, where even in a very silly, this is a comedy, by the way, this is a silly movie, it almost feels like he's playing it straight, and like he's like, I would be terrified like if this Dracula was in front of me, even though it's like has the absurdity of Nicolas Cage, and he still like makes jokes, he still is like over the top. He still is like doing all the crazy Cageisms that he does, whether it's the yelling and like almost where it's like almost bad acting, but it still somehow seems not bad. And like, I mean, if you know Nicolas Cage, you know what that means. Like, he goes over the top, he does whatever, and he somehow, just some way, always makes it work. And this movie was just a lot of fun. I think that also Nicholas Holt's character was just a very, very interesting character. He's very down to earth, as it's this whole movie, it's a play on toxic relationships. And he literally says how he needs to get out of a toxic relationship where he's in an abusive relationship where Dracula abuses him. He's the boss, a worker, and Dracula is his boss. And he feels a lot of this guilt because Dracula's making him bring like bodies and blood for him to eat. Because I mean, he's Dracula, and basically kind of just care for him throughout his life. And he feels like all this pent up abuse from him. And so it's this kind of cute little metaphor, I guess, like it's done like tackling a very serious issue of abusive relationships, but it's done through like silly lens, which could seem like in very poor taste, but I think it's done so where it's so over the top, but also is done in a way where you still feel like the actual message is still taken relatively seriously. And I think that was very important here, even though that this is marketed as a comedy, and it is. It also like it's also says like comedy horror, but I mean, it's really just the horror just because of the over the top like gore, and this movie is extremely gory. And it's so over the top where it just makes it funny. Like, you literally have like Dracula, like where he can turn into like this dust and then go into people and explode in all this blood, and it's just extremely over the top. But that's just what adds to the fun. Like I said, Nicolas Cage, I mean, he goes over the top. And apparently Dracula is a character that he apparently has been wanting to play for like the longest time. And even though this is in a silly movie, I still think that his Dracula was a great performance as Dracula. And I mean, of course this is just a one-off movie, but I would love to see him in a actual Dracula role where he is playing it like dead serious, because I do think he genuinely does. He can do it, because even in this over-the-top comedy, I think that his Dracula works very well. It is still quite serious, even still also while handling the jokiness of the overall movie. So yeah, I thought that this was a really fun movie, and I really had fun with it. And coming in at number one, we have Dream Scenario. And I think that this is one of the biggest surprises of the year, where I went in with high expectations because I love Nicolas Cage and I knew he wouldn't disappoint. But the way that this is marketed, I think that it is kind of marketed, it's marketed as a comedy, and it is. It is very funny because we're just following, like, Nicolas Cage is in people's dreams, like, haha, that's funny, and it is. But I did not expect for this movie to not only have a genuinely very emotional story, but also just a beautiful, like, it's with the dreams, like, all of the three genres that it tackles, comedy, drama, and horror, they all blend together in such a way where it, like, progressively, like, it starts off where, like, oh, haha, it's funny because Nicolas Cage is in your dreams. And it is funny. And it tackles that great. And then it progresses into horror, because in the dreams, he basically is like a Freddy Krueger. These dreams, even though he's not really behind it, he's in these dreams that are nightmares, which leads perfectly into the drama, which allows him to really flex his acting chops. And where I think that, like, where he does not get enough credit as a dramatic actor, because a lot of it is about, like, because he's doing these terrible things in the dreams that is not of Paul's fault. It's not Paul's fault. It just happens to be there. Like, it's causing his wife doesn't want to be around him. His kids are scared of him. He gets kicked out of places because people don't like him. And it just leads to this, like, you feel bad for Paul because he's not doing anything wrong. He is very charismatic. But at the same time, you do understand, yeah, people are very uncomfortable around him because they see him every night just doing these awful things to them. And so it creates a movie where it really is, you understand both sides, even though, like, at the end of the day, I mean, Paul, he is in the right. It isn't his fault. But you could see, yes, these people are overreacting, but at the same time, you do understand because you see from their dreams, you see some of the things they see and how horrifying it can be. And I thought that this movie just did a great job of just throwing a curveball in terms of my expectations, because, like I said, I went into this thinking it was comedy and it's marketed as comedy, and it is. But I just think it's just had all this great emotional depth that just blossomed into, my opinion, like a very beautiful movie. And I just thought it was fantastic. I thought, like, maybe my top 10, not top 5 of the year, but definitely my top 10. I just thought that this was a very good movie. And it shows, like, guys, Nicolas Cage still got it. I don't care what anybody says. He could do the comedy, he could do the drama, and he also works well in this horror. And I thought this was just a fantastic movie. So yeah, those are my rankings of the 3 Nicolas Cage movies that I saw that released in 2023. He's been so busy. He's got like 6, but I only saw 3. But I just wanted to do this fun little video because I thought it would be fun. And yeah, just let me know, like, if you saw any Nicolas Cage movies this year, how would you rank them?